What's up guys, I'm Landon from Shoeware, and today we're putting the Nike Air Zoom GT Jump up against the Air Zoom GT Run to see how they compare. So really quick, if this is your first time checking us out, feel free to drop a follow or subscribe wherever you're watching and give this video a like. We would greatly appreciate that. So starting off with the box and the price, both of these shoes are part of a 3-pack from Nike's Greater Than Shoe line. So you can actually see I have the third model, the GT Cut, right back here behind me. So with that, these are going to have the same idea for the box, but on the GT Jump, you're going to see an arrow kind of pointing up to represent the jump model. And then for the GT Run, there's going to be a wavy line kind of to signify that run design. So it is a pretty basic look for the boxes, but still pretty clean in my opinion. But as for pricing, the GT Jump is going to be retailing for $180, which, is the most expensive out of these three designs. The GT Runs fall in the middle at $175. And, this whole GT line does kind of fall on the more, higher end of the scale for basketball shoes. But, I mean, there's a pretty good reason why.
I came back now, getting all this guap, I don't think I better pass now. Paper so long.
So looking at the appearance for these shoes and starting off with the colorways, today we're checking out the Nike Air Zoom GT Jump Own Space versus the Air Zoom GT Run Armory Slate. So with the GT Jump officially getting ready to release, Nike has now hit on all three heights across this shoe line, with these being a high top. The GT Run is more of a mid, and then the GT Cut is obviously going to be a low top design. So, I normally prefer to play in lows and mids, but as far as a high top design, I think these are actually pretty sweet. So Nike actually spells out a lot of what is being used within this jump model, just on the shoe itself. And I'll show a little bit more of that once we get into the performance section here in just a second. I just thought it might be worth to mention right now. But as for the structure, you're going to have a gap in the midsole to kind of peek through from the side. And it's a similar look to the Jordan basketball shoe line right now, like the Jordan 34, 5, 6, that progression right there. But you're also going to have a really cool tongue on this setup with sort of like a transparent look on the left shoe saying Own Space. And then on the right tongue, it's going to just have the Jump logo. But, Nike definitely put a lot into this GT Jump design. But now switching it over to the GT Run, this shoe does feel a little bit higher off the ground just due to that thicker midsole. And you can see, it's not like bulky, that's not the word, but it's definitely just thicker. And they kind of work the logo onto the tongue and just a few different places on the shoe. And then I think the Air Zoom patch that shows up on the midsole is actually a really sweet look. And you get a little bit of a mismatching design kind of on the back of the shoe running up that section. So, I mean, really there isn't a bad looking shoe from this Greater Than series, but, if I had to choose a pair to leave out, I just don't think that the GT Jump and the Cut look, I guess they just look a little bit better than this Run model in my opinion. But, after all, we're here to talk basketball shoes for performance. So now let's get into that.
You can't play a player, baby. That's just how the game goes. All I'm focused on.
So now getting into more of the materials and the performance comparison, and starting off with the cushioning. This is one of the areas that Nike definitely highlighted for this GT Jump model. So now looking at the outsole and coming back to the parts where, Nike kind of spells out what's being used, you can see on this outsole like a list of just, all the things for this design that was implemented for the cushioning setup. So first off, you're going to see that system of air text that kind of shows up in the front half of the shoe that signifies that Zoom Air unit in the forefoot. It's also going to show up in the heel where you see that Zoom heel, but on top of that is going to be a P-Box jump frame. And then on top of that is going to be a full-length Zoom Air strobo unit. And this diagram, it pretty much breaks down everything that is being used within this cushioning setup. And the GT Jump is just super nice to play in. And I felt like these kept a pretty light feel, especially with the amount of cushioning features that are just, packed into this model. So you're also going to have a Cushlon midsole, which, just kind of adds to an already soft feel. But each shoe in this Greater Than line was kind of geared for a different style of play, which I did think was a pretty cool concept. So the GT Cut is going to focus on your vertical jumping and your impact protection. The GT Cut model is going to be more designed to keep you low to the ground for those changing of direction quickly, for those movements. And then now looking at the GT Run, these are going to be more for energy return and kind of the whole running aspect, as the name implies. So I guess similar to the GT Cut, you are going to have some React technology in that midsole. It's not as soft as the other two models to play in, but you are going to have a multi-layered cushioning setup with a 4-foot Zoom Air strobo, and then you're also going to have a 4-foot Zoom Air unit. So I will say it's not quite as noticeable on this design, but it still is pretty soft, even though you don't feel the cushioning quite as much. You are also going to be playing a little bit higher off the ground thanks to how thick that midsole is. But I would say, you know, like I've been just kind of teasing at the end of this section, that it's not quite as soft as a GT jump, just from what I felt so far.
I came back now, getting all this guap, I don't think I better pass now. Paper so long.
So now looking at the materials and the support, you know, clearly a lot of materials went into the cushioning aspect for the GT jump, but looking at some of the other features, these are going to have a Nike jump frame kind of labeled on this black portion of the shoe, and that is what keeps, you know, all of the cushioning intact and under control while you're playing in these. And then for the upper, you can see it's going to be made out of a Nike jump wire setup that's kind of marked out near the ankle on that black strip. And then also in the middle portion of the upper, it's going to be kind of see-through, and then transitions into more being filled in around the heel, and it does give you a secure feel to play in. And Nike also used some lighter materials to make up this upper design by using, you know, that wire setup, and you know, it still ends up feeling super nice for support, so you have to like that kind of added aspect of there. But you're also going to have a Nike swoosh that kind of ranges up on the back heel, extends up a little bit to maybe help with the lateral containment, although it won't be by a lot. And then of course this is also a tie top shoe design, so you can lace these up and around your ankle, kind of tighten them into the design a little bit more for some potential added stability. But now switching it over to the GT Run, these will feel closer to this jump design than they will the cut, because you know, it's kind of got that mesh setup, but it is a little bit different. So like I was about to say, these have a 2-layer design that's kind of made up to be lightweight and breathable, and you know, these will definitely give you that. You do have a combination of like mesh and some textured print, but and I would say I don't hate it, but I don't really love it. I mean, they do serve their purpose well for what it's trying to get accomplished, especially for, you know, how thin this upper material feels, but it's not super secure, although it does, you know, hold up okay. But as far as the comfort, it does kind of lack in this area thanks to that upper design though, because it does kind of have a tendency to crease in some weird places just whenever you bend your shoe. And you know, it hasn't bothered me every time that I've played in these, but you know, I did notice it at least a couple of times. And you know, there isn't any pieces on this design to kind of really geared for the support, so you know, maybe you'd want that with as thin as this upper design feels, but in general, they still play pretty well.
I came back now, getting all this guap, I don't think I better pass now. Paper so long.
So to finish off with traction, all 3 shoes from this Nike Greater Than series are going to have a different traction setup. So for the GT Jump, these are equipped with a traditional herringbone setup that's actually really nice. So you're going to have some arrows kind of running in a horizontal fashion in the middle, and then it kind of shifts to running in a vertical formation around the edges. So you just know you're going to be covered on those front to back as well as those side to side movements. And it's a pretty sticky design too. I did play in a dusty court my first few times playing on these, and they were still gripping the floor really well. I went on to switch it up on a nicer court, and you know, as you'd imagine, they excelled even more there. But switching it over to the GT Run, these probably get the most unique setup. They don't really have a set pattern with like arrows or anything like that, but you're going to get more of some curved lines kind of all throughout the outsole. And then these grooves are going to be pretty deep too. And I don't have a lot to complain about or praise for the GT Run as far as traction. I mean, they're not quite as sticky of a feel, but they also don't have any major blemishes to go along with, you know, as far as the traction. But to finish off with sizing, both of these shoes should run true to your Nike size, and they have a normal fit just as far as the width too.
You can't play a player, baby, that's just how the game goes.
So for the final ratings, and starting off with the appearance, all 3 shoes from this like Nike Greater Than line came out pretty clean, but you know, the GT Cut is probably my favorite. Both of these designs are a close second, so I'll leave that section as a tie. But as for cushioning, you know, the GT Runs are good to play in, but the GT Jumps are closer to being great with all of the cushioning features in that shoe. But you know, like I said, the GT Run is still a good shoe for comfort. It's just tough to kind of match up with a shoe that's this heavily focused towards cushioning, so they're going to win that category. But as for the materials, you know, I don't really love the upper on the GT Run. It doesn't feel quite as smooth to play in, and then you can just tell from the diagram breakdown earlier that the GT Jump has a lot more pieces involved within the design just to give you a better feel, so I am going to go with the GT Jump here. For support, I haven't really been able to trust the GT Run fully yet. I think the wire design that's on this GT Jump model does hold your foot in a little better place than this mesh design on the upper for the GT Run, so I'm going to stay over here with the Jump. And then to finish off with traction, you know, the GT Run is pretty solid, but it still doesn't quite measure up to the GT Jump, which, you know, just has a little bit more bite on the court. So that is going to lead to the GT Jump winning pretty easily against the GT Run. I mean, this is kind of a tale of good versus great. I mean, everywhere the GT run is good. I just think the GT jump plays a little bit better, either by a lot or maybe by a little, just kind of depending on the category. But, you know, I'm still just a big fan of this Nike Greater Than series. I mean, they didn't really miss on any shoe from this line. So if you're interested in buying one or both of these shoes and you want to support our channel, we do have an affiliate link in the description that gives us a little commission that just goes back into reviewing more shoes. So feel free to check that out. But that wraps up this performance comparison. Feel free to leave a comment below if you like this video, just letting us know any other shoes you want to see go head to head. But until next review, I'm Landon from Shoeware. Peace.
You can't play a player, baby. That's just how the game goes. All I'm focused on.